What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bitcoin and Markets. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good start to your week. And Monday is Bitcoin Fundamentals Report Day. It is the most extensive or comprehensive newsletter in Bitcoin. You can find that at bitcoinandmarkets.com. So what we do here on Mondays is I write this throughout the day, everything that's happened over the last week, and then we go through it on the live stream. I like to encourage interaction. So if you guys are watching over on Twitter, jump over to YouTube or Rumble. It's a lot easier to make live comments over there, and I'll answer as many comments as I can get to if there are any. So let's share the screen and get right into it. Bitcoinandmarkets.com is the first place. One thing I did want to bring up, well, I'll bring that up here in a minute, but let's click into here. Issue number 312. Again, guys, this is all free. If you want to join the email list, there's also ways to support the show here on the website as well. But let's get into this. Quick navigation, jump to any parts that you want. Also, this is independent content, listener-supported, viewer-supported content. I am running a white paper special. So the white paper is on October 31st, or that's the anniversary of the white paper. And so to celebrate that, you guys can get 50% off your first month, either professional or just a member tier. And I wanted to show you one thing that we do for members is the price forecast competition. So every month you forecast the price, and the person closest gets $20 in sats. So check that out. You have a chance to win back your membership fee if you want to. And yeah, so October, Mekong Monkey won. And we also have a Hall of Fame. Let's go to the Hall of Fame. Share that so you guys can see. You get your name up here with how many, a wizard every time that you get it correct. And then you get it listed here on our site. So it's a fun little competition for members. So if you're interested to be part of a community, hardcore Bitcoin, but also macro community, and have fun, chat it up on the Telegram, and do these competitions, then check out the member tier over there. Okay, let's get into the snapshot of Bitcoin. Weekly trend, pre-election dip. We'll go over a live chart down below in the price analysis section. It's dipping a little bit more than I thought, but there is a lot of pre-election uncertainty out there, and so it's not really surprising that Bitcoin is dipping right now. I don't expect any sort of big dips, but that's what we're experiencing. Media sentiment is positive. Network traffic is very low. We'll take a look at the mempool and fees and stuff. Mining industry is in somewhat of a consolidation after, all-time highs in hash rate and difficulty. It looks like we're going to get another difficulty, all-time high in difficulty today. In the next hour or so, it's going to adjust upward. So the numbers are really good, but over the last few days during this dip in price, the hash rates really come off. So they are in a bit of a consolidation after hitting all-time highs. Price section, weekly price at the time of writing 67,804. That's down 1,300 or 2% on the week. That's issue to issue. So that's not a weekly candle. That's Monday to Monday. Market cap is still at 1.3 trillion. Satoshis per dollar, 1473, and one finny, or 1/10,000th of a Bitcoin. That's my unit that I came up with, and I'm sticking to it. I'm going to die on this hill about the finny. Is $6.78. Mining sector, previous difficulty adjustment was plus 3%. Looks like we're going to get another 3%. In an hour or two. And mempool, 75 megabytes, down quite a bit from over 100 last week, down to 75 this week. Fees for the next block, 19 cents or 2 sats per virtual byte. And the low priority fee is also 19 cents. Lightning Network capacity was a little bit of a mixed bag, or Lightning Network numbers were a little bit of a mixed bag. Capacity was up 7 Bitcoins week to week. So that is positive, but the channels were down over 100 or 135 channels on net closed on the Lightning Network this last week. Okay, so let's dive into the headlines. Let me check chat here, Raphael. Ron Paul, yeah, I saw that he is going to be brought in with Elon Musk for the efficiency committee. That's huge, very, very big. I was a Ron Paul supporter back in 2012, and that maybe that is kind of the way that they dealt with Ron Paul. That's one thing that really forced me to reevaluate gold, because I was a gold bug, and I was all this end the Fed type of person, gold and silver. And Ron Paul losing, man, you really had to, at that time, I was like, I need to reevaluate what I'm doing here. And that was pretty much around the time that I found Bitcoin. And I was able to learn and deep dive into it because I was receptive. I was ready to accept something like gold, but a little bit more active, a little bit more different. So yeah, that's great news. I hope that one of the big things Ron Paul will do is the Department of Education. He'll try to get rid of that. Lots of different agencies Ron Paul will really want to get rid of. Yeah, I think that's a good thing. It's just another, like I've been seeing all these things like, oh, if you vote for Trump, you get this person and this person and this person and this person and this person. And they're all like great presidential candidates on their own. And now he's added another one with Ron Paul. So there's so many kind of a package deal. It's a great package deal when you're voting for Trump. But okay, let's go on to the headlines. Make that bigger for Telegram. Top headline was Microstrategy announces a plan to buy $42 billion in Bitcoin over the next 3 years. So Michael Saylor raises the stakes on his bold speculative attack against the dollar. Remember, I say, watch what he does, not necessarily what he says. He's not a savior. He's not a hero. He's just a dude speculatively attacking the dollar, which that's beautiful. That is a beautiful thing. And it's really hard to take anything else he says that outweighs his acts, what he's doing here. And this is taking it to a whole new level, $42 billion over the next 3 years, which is huge. I don't think this has gotten as much playtime as it would have if it wasn't for the election. So yes, this news came out last week. The election kind of drowned it out. I think this is going to come back up in the news cycle after we get through the election and we hit other things that are happening this week. Right now, we're hitting a few things in a row here this week that are going to be positive, I think, for Bitcoin, and we'll cover those all here today. This is just another one. And you can see their release there. So they're going to be 21 billion of equity and 21 billion of fixed income securities. They refer to it as their 21-21 plan. And this is just a start. I mean, maybe in a year's time, they're upping this to another 42 billion. And they've already completed it maybe after 18 months, and they're doing another 42 billion. I mean, the sky's the limit here on what Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy can do. It's pretty crazy. Okay, next story. BlackRock's IBIT took in more money than all other ETFs in the world last week. Now, this is slightly delayed. So this was from, I think, Thursday. If you take the 5 trading days up to Thursday, that IBIT took in the most out of any ETF in the world that week. And that's pretty huge. You're going against some of the major ETFs that Bitcoin is still kind of a niche product, yet it is the most successful ETF last week. So last week was monumental for ETF inflows, with 2 days surpassing $800 million. This made IBIT the ETF with the highest inflows globally for the week. There are now over 24 billion in ETF inflows, accelerating once again. With a Trump victory, we could see another 10 billion added by the end of the year. The success of the Bitcoin ETFs hasn't gone unnoticed by major investors, while a few critics still linger on social media who are fun to call out. The largest players are preparing to enter Bitcoin in a major way. So far, ETFs hold close to 1 million Bitcoins. The next 1 million will be highly competitive. So it's coming, guys. All right, next topic. The state of Florida has $800 million of exposure to Bitcoin and Bitcoin-related assets. So that's interesting. 800 million here and 800 million here. So Florida was orange pilled by having the Bitcoin conference there for 3 years. Miami is fully on board, and now the entire state has exposure. This is going to become the norm. Tennessee and others will follow. Increasingly, more states, endowments, sovereign wealth funds, and central banks are gaining exposure to Bitcoin, either through the ETFs or through Microstrategy. The dam is breaking. And this is a 4-minute clip, but it comes right at the end, I believe. So let's go ahead, make sure I have this volume up and play, and I'll fast forward.
Next guest is pushing to invest.
Look, I don't want the federal government knowing when my son went to the grocery store to go buy a bag of Doritos at 2:15 in the afternoon. So we need to have some protections in place. And I think where we make it a welcome and interesting expansion of dialogues in Florida, and maybe even a greater expansion. We have about $800 million in crypto-related investments in our state portfolio, but I would not be shocked to be able to see that growing under a Trump administration in the near future.
All right, so growing under a Trump administration, 800 million and growing. Again, why wouldn't Tennessee follow this? Texas follow this? Other big endowments. We saw what was last week, the Emory University or whatever. They were adding it to their endowment. I can see like large universities. University of Texas famously owns a lot of gold exposure. And so I can see them also owning Bitcoin exposure. So yeah, the dominoes are going to keep falling and the dam is breaking. All right, let's move into macro headlines. So market is holding its breath ahead of the US elections. This election is a pivotal moment in the fight against the global Marxists. You know, I like to set this up in my macro thesis is the cultural Marxism and Davos man and all of these globalists over there. They are Marxists, and they're trying to take over high positions all over the world. And Trump is a rebellion against that. It's a rebellion against a global governance above and beyond the nation state. That's what they're trying to implement and destroy the economy with climate policy, destroy the economy with all sorts of things. And so this is a very pivotal moment against global Marxism. I saw a tweet from that famous guy, like Hawari, I believe is his last name. And he was saying, like, if Trump wins, that's the death nail for the globalists. And so, yeah, I believe this is a very pivotal moment in that fight, though it likely won't have a direct or lasting impact on Bitcoin. Why? Because they're both, it doesn't really matter. Bitcoin, everything is good for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is already embedded in the system. All these ETF inflows, everyone's so much, there's billionaires on our side, marking one of the most successful financial products in history. There's no turning back. Even if Trump loses, people may rush to exit the traditional financial system. So just like how Trump might symbolize taking down the globalists, a win by Kamala will signal the end of the traditional financial system, or at least the and loss of any hope of like revamping and keeping this from collapsing in on itself, right? And so Bitcoin will be seen as a neutral fixed supply asset that's ready to absorb all of these inflows. So even if Trump loses, this is still good for Bitcoin. The election will not change the economic trajectory. We are headed for a significant recession. However, the winning candidate could influence how that recession unfolds and the future of the dollar. Next topic is the FOMC coming up this week. So I tend to favor a larger rate cut. I think we are going into recession, a pretty significant one. And so a lot of the economic numbers behind the GDP and behind like the flashy overall numbers are very bad and getting worse. We have deglobalization going on, and China is very, very much struggling. Germany is very much struggling, and so when we have a slowdown, all of that, in other major economies in the world, all the U.S. can't escape it. So everyone is going to start sliding down together, and the central bankers know this. That's why they're all cutting. Powell knows this very well. That's why he's cutting. And so anyway, I favor a larger cut. But right now, the market is pricing in 25 basis points. Last week, they were, so this is showing 1.6% for a 50 basis point cut. Last week, it was actually over here. So there's like a 5% chance of no cut. Now there's no chance of no cut and a 2% chance of a 50 basis point cut. I think that tends to be higher. I would put it about a 25% chance of a 50 basis point cut. And you can see more about my recession calls here in my latest blog post. You can check that out. All right. And that's all the headlines for Bitcoin and macro. Everything is about the election, at least in my bubble. Now, the election is a big thing for people everywhere because of those things I mentioned, the global governance, the Marxists that are trying to affect everybody and use not only central banking, they're trying to ban Bitcoin, use a CBDC, trying to destroy the economy with their climate policies. And so this affects everybody. If Trump wins, then there is going to be an ability to fight them. Now, does this mean the end of the global Marxists? Probably not. But in a multipolar world, which we're going into, there's going to be other places for them to go. I think they might be out for the foreseeable future in the United States. And if that is the case, then that's probably the writing on the wall in Europe as well. Where do the global Marxists go? It depends on what you think the multipolar world is. It going to be just China and the US, or is it going to be like China, Europe, the US, BRICS? Like, what are these poles in the coming world order? And the globalists will find a home somewhere. That's what Marxists do. They go and they try to infiltrate other places, and they won't go away completely, but they will try to entrench themselves elsewhere. Okay, so that is that. Let's go on to price, but let me check any comments. John Delaney, what's going on? Let me check Telegram, see if there's anything in there. No. All right, let's continue moving. I thought this was going to be a little bit faster week for going over the fundamentals report. So we'll see how we can do here. All right, last week I said I wouldn't be surprised with a new all-time high within days. And man, we got so close. It's not going to be before the U.S. election, but we got very, very close. Check this out. So all-time high right here. And let's see, where was Friday? What day of the week? Or what day? That was Monday was the 28th. And so if we go, it would have been this day. Let me see if my cursor's coming through. It was this day. And I said I wouldn't be surprised with the all-time high within days. The next day, it almost got there. It was like $100 off. So pretty good call. But I also said I don't expect more than a 5% pullback. And we were sitting at 7.5% at the time of writing. Let's go to a live chart and see where we are. It is pulling back a little bit more significantly now. We can measure from the top. And we are at 8.88%. That would be a nice number to stop at. But yeah, I don't see any risk of much more major downside, but we'll get into that here. A bit more than expected, but it's still in the ballpark of 5%. Last week, I revised my forecast. Initially, I was expecting a pullback into the election. If you go back like 3 weeks and listen to my price analysis from then, I was like, okay, we're going to rally through the end of October. And then that last week before the election, we're going to be flat to down. But as we approached, I did a little bit more analysis of previous election weeks. And I didn't see a strong election reaction, especially not in 2020. And so I said, okay, well, I need to update that and say, okay, we're not going to have any sort of pullback before the election based on that new analysis. But it seems like my initial thought was correct. So soft November leading into the election. And now after that, we'll see how the fundamentals combine and compound on each other throughout the rest of the month. Okay, we looked at that chart. Price is currently finding support at a high volume by price level. You can see over here, volume by price is, I gotta make this bigger. Volume by price, right where we were at 67,600. And what were we right now? 67,300. So we're still in the ballpark of this peak in volume by price, which is a shelling point for people. Because if you guys know my brand of technical analysis, I'm worried about shelling points. And if there was a high volume area where a lot of people were paying attention last time that the price was there, most likely they're going to be watching that same exact area now. And so that is a direct measure of how many eyeballs are on that level. And so this is an important price. Now, if I thought that we had a big chance to dip, the next level down would be 63,000. I don't think we'll get there, but we will see. We still have 24 to 48 hours before we get any sort of resolution on this election. One thing that might have made Bitcoin dip more than the 5% that I had anticipated was Kamala spiking on Polymarket. It was mostly a manufactured surge to drive a narrative. Now, that is exactly what the Marxists were saying about Trump's surge over the last couple weeks, that this was manipulation by just a few players on these markets. Of course, it was across all markets. It wasn't just one. And so that didn't really make any sense. But in this case, the Marxists always project confession through projection. So everything they blame on the other side, they are guilty of themselves. Anyway, this could have weighed more heavily on the Bitcoin price. So you can see they were saying, oh, this is manipulated, manufactured. And then one day the chances dropped. And I think that was manipulation because they were telling us they wanted to manipulate it on the way up, the other way. Okay, what else for price here? 13F filings are starting to trickle in, with more expected in the coming week, actually up to the middle of the month. Today, UK pension scheme advised by Cartwright allocated 3% to Bitcoin. Expect to hear more major new holders of the ETFs and MSTR. Here you can see that headline. This uptick in 13F disclosures will coincide with the conclusion of the US election. So this is all about timing. This one comes out today before the election. What's going to come out tomorrow in filings? What's going to come out Wednesday? What's going to come out Thursday or Friday and into next week, right? So all of these 13Fs are going to start trickling in, and that's going to coincide with some of this uncertainty being lifted from the market. Once we have certainty about the election, then, the uncertainty that might be holding down markets will disappear. And then we'll also add to that all these 13F disclosures. So if price challenges the all-time high again amid these compounding positive signals, we could see significant bullish momentum. Measured from the halving, this cycle is still below previous cycles, and I've talked about this many times. However, the unusual pre-halving all-time high has skewed this. So if you look at this chart, we had an all-time high before the halving, and that has never occurred in other cycles. So that does kind of skew this black current line below where it should be. It should be, not a ton higher, but a little bit higher than it is here without that all-time high. But I also highlighted the next 100 days. And if we do rally significantly over the next 100 days, which I do expect, then we can get right back into the mix, right back into kind of the average cycle numbers there. So there is a possibility that the price hits 150K in that window. I don't think it's a high chance actually right now in 100 days, but if you stretch it out to 200 days, yeah, I think it's a pretty high likelihood that we're hitting 150 by that point. Okay. Overall, this pre-election pullback has been larger than expected, but does not threaten to go much lower. The election appears favorable for a pro-Bitcoin Trump victory. Price remains above key levels with the bullish trend intact. Cycle timing suggests a significant move over the next 100 days. Additionally, we have a Fed rate cut that could prove bullish for the Bitcoin price as well. All right, so that is the price section. Let me take a look at comments if there's any. Guys, I like to encourage interaction. So if you're watching on Twitter, jump over to YouTube and Rumble. Those links are in my pinned tweet. And then you can put your questions or comments, whatever you have, in the chat there. Let me see if Telegram is up or has any questions. No comments in there either. All right, well, we'll just keep rolling. We will keep rolling. So that was the price section. Let's go on to mining. So this is the mining sector headlines. Deutsche Telekom subsidiary Digital Monetary Photosynthesis is testing Bitcoin mining to balance their grid and energy production. Bitcoin aligns incentives. Despite the EU's anti-Bitcoin stance, Bitcoin mining benefits are undeniable. Mining can make renewable energy more profitable and enables the most efficient energy production levels 24/7 instead of ramping up and down production around peak hours. So this is a pretty big thing here over there from the EU. And of course, they're anti-Bitcoin, and getting involved with mining is pretty amazing. I mean, how far are we away from just a year or two ago when everyone was demonizing Bitcoin mining? And now, even in the stronghold of the globalists, deep in the heart of the den of the global Marxists, they are looking at Bitcoin as a way to help them manage their grid. Okay, so Deutsche Telekom subsidiary MMS is collaborating with Bankhaus Metzler, is launching a pilot project to operate in a Bitcoin mining infrastructure using surplus energy. The mining is intended to be powered by electricity from renewable energy sources, which would otherwise remain unused due to insufficient grid input possibilities and or lack of storage options. The pilot project aims to provide valid field data and insights to plan subsequent projects. So of course, this isn't the end all be all, but I think it's a pretty big deal. All right, next headline from mining. Bitcoin mining bans could lead to an increase in carbon emissions from some researchers. This story is striking. Only a few years ago, Bitcoin mining was vilified as wasteful. Now it's seen as potentially beneficial to renewable energy and carbon reduction. So you see the headline there. While I'm not particularly worried about the environment, this is another great example of Bitcoin aligning incentives. Bitcoiners don't care much about why you fall down the rabbit hole, only that you do. So, yeah, I don't care if you find Bitcoin because you or support Bitcoin because you think it's good for the environment. It might be good for the environment, but that doesn't really matter to me. What matters to me is that you find Bitcoin. Bitcoin does align incentives, and you're here. You're going to fall down the rabbit hole, and Bitcoin changes you more than you can't really change Bitcoin, but Bitcoin changes individuals on a deep fundamental basis. So it doesn't matter why you find Bitcoin. It will do its magic on you. Dex Invictus back with this. What's going on, man? Okay. This new research is completely destroying the waning anti-Bitcoin talking points. And just like climate activists, attacks on nuclear, attacks on Bitcoin mining expose them as hypocrites after power, only after power. So yeah, the climate activists, they don't like nuclear, even though it's super clean energy and it's very safe. There's many fewer. It's like the safest sector of the energy industry is nuclear. The most dangerous is probably oil, I would say. Natural gas, pretty dangerous. Coal is pretty dangerous with fumes and stuff like that. What else? I mean, have you guys seen them going onto those windmills out in the middle of the ocean when they have to go up there for maintenance and stuff, like in the North Sea, and there's 20-foot swells and 20-foot waves. I mean, that's very, very dangerous. Nuclear is very safe, very clean, but the climate activists don't like that. Very funny that. Same with Bitcoin. They attack Bitcoin when Bitcoin can actually help. Bitcoin is actually a net positive for carbon. And if you attack it, then you'll just expose being a hypocrite, just like when you attack nuclear. Okay, next section here about mining is hash rate and difficulty. Bitcoin's hash rate has dropped drastically over the last few days after the hash rate and difficulty hit new all-time highs around the time the price was also near all-time high. The fact that hash rate reacted so cleanly to the price dip is telling evidence that the hash rate is sensitive to price as a lagging indicator, not the other way around. So I just wanted to make that a little bit more clear, because last week a lot of people were saying, look at hash rate jumping, hash rate's going to all-time high, and price is going to follow. Okay, price doesn't follow hash rate. Hash rate follows price. And this is just another example of that. When the price dips, look what happens to hash rate. So there you go. Difficulty will change in roughly 5 hours. And let me go see what it is right now, because that was at the time of writing. Oh, we are 1 block away. Let me go bring into this. So this is hard to see. This is newedge.io/terminal/Bitcoin/difficulty estimator. And you can see we are estimated to be, oh man, no. I thought it was 3%. We are estimated to be about a 6.2% increase in difficulty in the next block. So pretty cool. Pretty cool. 1 block away, right when I checked it. All right, so that's that. Big difficulty adjustment. That's going to affect miners as well, especially if the price is dipping. If we go through any sort of prolonged dip, then that will affect miners' bottom line more. I don't think that's really the case here, but hash rate has come down drastically over the last couple days. Okay, mempool. Major dip in the mempool over the last week brings fees to rock bottom levels. There is little transactional demand right now. That's another symptom of a tense uncertainty around the U.S. presidential elections, in my opinion. So you can see this just falling off a cliff right here. We were over 100 megabytes in the mempool last week. Now we're down to, what was it, 75? For those new, mempool is transactions waiting to be confirmed by miners. This chart here is color coded by fee level. So the reason why the pink stays pretty stable is because those are the cheapest fees. So when you make a Bitcoin transaction, you can set the fee to whatever you want. Most wallets have automatic calculators now that calculate a fee to, high priority fee or low priority fee. Other uses of Bitcoin, like ordinals, or people do tokens on Bitcoin and inscriptions and things like that, they will use very low fees. So that's probably what's a lot of these very low pink fees right here is those other types of transactions that have been waiting for a long time. If they used a high fee, the fees would get really high. So because they're such big transactions. So the bigger you pay by the size in megabytes or bytes of your transaction. So if you have a very big transaction, even if you set a 1 sat per virtual byte fee, the total fee is going to be higher. And if you go up to even like 3, 4, 5 sats per virtual byte on a very large transaction, the fees can get outrageous. to make that. So a lot of them they send in the transaction and they just wait. They'll wait for a month to get them confirmed. But that is the state of the mempool right now. Like I said, I think this is being affected a lot by the U.S. presidential election and the uncertainty around that. So as the minute that we get some sort of result, which I don't think is going to be nearly as crazy as it was in 2020, but we will see. I think it could possibly be called tomorrow night. We won't even need an extra day or 2 or 3 to get the results. That's how much I think the lead is right now, but we shall see. All right. And for layer 2, if there is a lot of layer 2 stuff, I'll put it in here, but I didn't see anything significant this week for layer 2. Down here, in case you missed it, I have been putting out these live streams as podcast versions, so you can check those out. Also, the November price forecast competition. Today is the 4th, so you guys have one more day to get your entries in for the November price forecast competition. That is for paid members here on bitcoinandmarkets.com. Have a premium post and my Forbes post from last week. I did not get a new one out, but I'm going to try to get one out this week. Okay, so that's it. Let me take a look at comments and see if you guys are talking about anything. Raphael, climate change almost became the Fed's third mandate. The Marxists and globalists were asking for 150 trillion. Pretty wild stuff. Jerome Powell pushed back, said not their job. Exactly, man. So Powell, you're speaking of, like, I don't think it was ECB, but there was some reason, some central bank conference over there in Europe. I don't think it was in Frankfurt. I think it was in Brussels, but I could be wrong about that. But that was a couple years back, and they were trying to peer pressure Powell into going along with, using monetary policy as climate policy. Give bailouts to certain companies and not other companies. Tailor their, I guess, I'm trying to think of what they would do. Like the ECB had a bunch of different funds that they could distribute during COVID and stuff. And how they distribute that, they would be promoting equity. They would be promoting climate, ESG sort of things. And Powell was like not having any of it. He got up there and he said, no, that's not our job. We have a dual mandate of stable prices and maximum employment. We don't have a dual mandate of equity or another mandate of equity and another mandate of environmental stuff. That is not our place. And that is just, that's the way, though, that Marxists think, right? They don't think there is a real way that something works. They think it's all about power. Do you have the power to implement your vision? That's it. There's no such thing as reason or economics or anything like that. It's all about power. We were just talking about this on the Telegram as well, like what makes somebody woke or whatever. And, the Enlightenment sort of thought of the West is about reason and science. If you have a scientific pursuit, it's a way to get to truth through science and reason. They don't think that. They think the way to truth is through power. And so when they think about using a central bank for ESG or equity, they're looking at it not through a lens of we're going to destroy the freaking economy. They're looking at it through a lens of we have the power. We're going to do this. I don't know. It's just a different, completely alien mindset that they have. Bitcoin definitely made me adopt long-term mindset. Yes. Spagball. Why would people think price follows hash rate? That doesn't make sense to my brain. Because I would think the argument there is that the price of Bitcoin is not supposed to be able to go under marginal cost of production. And so if hash rate goes up, that means most likely marginal cost is going higher, which should pull the price up because price can't be below marginal cost. But that doesn't work here because, the hash rate, it does follow price. So it's actually that the marginal cost rises until it hits price. It's not that price goes down until it hits marginal cost. Point. Love the mega bullishness on the election. If Trump frees Ross on day one, I may need to reconsider my cynicism about politics. Yes, there are. That would be one great thing. A lot of people are rethinking. Like, I don't know if I was talking about this when we had gone live or before on Telegram, but the coalition that Trump has built with, of course, J.D. Vance, you have Vivek, you have RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, Elon Musk, Ron Paul. That coalition is so different than what we are used to. I'm 43. And so what we have been used to in our adult lives, like, this is completely upending politics. It's realigning to a massive, massive degree. It's not just minor realignment, like you have some senator from West Virginia flipping from Democrat to Republican or something like this, or a swing state like Iowa slowly going red versus blue. No, this is a complete upending of the political party apparatus in the United States. And so I think there is a brief window. You're talking about mega bullishness. Facey McFace, hi, what's up? There mega bullishness. There is a brief period of time, guys. I think that with a Trump victory and a mandate from the people, like let's say he wins the popular vote, and let's say that gets the House and the Senate, okay? And then we're going into recession. Like, one of my calls here is the signals have not changed. Recession is on the horizon. Yes, it has taken longer to get to that point. And I've kind of CYA'd that delay by saying we are in a pre-recession period. And a pre-recession period, and I'm not doing that to cover my ass actually, but it has made me more correct, because in a pre-recession period, you should expect XYZ, and that's what we have seen. Higher stocks, higher bonds, and Bitcoin, higher gold, stronger dollar, those types of things. And so those things have been generally correct. And that's part of the pre-recession period. So whenever we get to that recession is when the pre-recession period ends. And maybe you could say we're just in a whole decade-long pre-recession. That's possible, because we are at the end of this gigantic 75-year credit bubble that there's no way to get out of. The end is deflationary. That's what they're trying to kick down the road. All bubbles pop, and so will this credit bubble. And so they're trying to kick it down the road. And it's possible that they continue to kick it down the road, but it will not be like we are booming economy again. It's going to be, we're just extending and pretending, which extends the pre-recession period. I hope that makes sense. Maybe that seems like a cop-out to people, but I don't think so. I think it's a way to view what the market is doing right now. And anyway, so back to the Trump mandate. He gets a mandate of popular vote. He gets the House and the Senate, and then comes a recession. That is going to be like almost like an FDR type moment, except it's going to be like a reverse FDR. And that's my hope. That's my, from the first Trump term, my only hope was that he would bust up some of the fake news, that he would handle some of the news networks and break them up somehow. But that didn't happen. And this time, like, my hope is that these events will lead to this unique period where he has a mandate to do a reverse FDR. So it's going back to the Great Depression. FDR put in all of this welfare state stuff. He put in the income tax, right? He put in all these different agencies. And now Trump has the ability to reverse that with a reverse mandate. He's talked about getting rid of the income tax. He's talked about making Bitcoin money. FDR famously did 6102. Well, a reverse of that would be to back the dollar with Bitcoin. So it's this very unique period that I am extremely bullish on. I don't think it can, it's not like a certainty or anything like that, but there is a chance, maybe a 10, 20% chance that something like that could happen. And man, if that does, we are looking at a golden age for the United States. Because you have other countries like China slipping down. Where's all that capital going to go? Like all Europe, same thing, wrecked by Davos, wrecked by the global Marxists. Where's all that capital going to go? We already see German factories coming over the United States. We already see the chip factories being built in the United States. We already see the United States as the largest energy producer in the world. It is the least dependent on international trade. The United States is the second largest manufacturer already. Like the gold and Bitcoin. So this could be, there's a 10% chance, guys, that we are living at the beginning of a golden age for the United States and the United States quote unquote empire. So anyways, that's what I got. Let's see any other comments here. Yes, we got a few. Ander says, if Kamala wins, we go down to 40K and remain below 50K for months on end. That's possible. That is possible, but I think it's a very small possibility. That, you know, I think you would agree that Kamala is very bad for the economy. Another Kamala win, it kind of like overturns elections in the United States where she didn't get a single vote in a primary. She was installed and she was backed by the fourth, what do they call it? The media is there's a term like the fourth wing or something. I can't remember now, but the media backs her, the media built her, the media got her elected. So it's kind of like upending our democracy. And I think it's going to be very, very bad for the economy. She wants to end fracking. She wants to tax the rich, bring in more Marxism, more DEI, more equity, more climate, all that stuff. It's so bad that I think the people that are revolting, which is, Silicon Valley class, you have even the unions and I mean, everybody's kind of revolting against this. Large banks with IBIT, BlackRock, Larry Fink, Fidelity, and others, they all are going towards Bitcoin already. And so even if Kamala wins, I think there's going to be a massive, massive pressure to exit dollar assets and get into something a little bit more secure, which it would be gold and Bitcoin. So I think that even if Kamala wins, there is going to be this pressure on the Bitcoin price. So I don't think they can. The one way that they can fight it is with these taxes, like make a special capital gains tax on Bitcoin specifically. That would be very bad. I think that would slow down Bitcoin for a long, long time. But right now, I don't think that we're going in that direction. I mean, they would have to get it through Congress, and I don't think that would go through Congress. So anyway, those are my quick thoughts. Raphael, Trump is technically not a politician. He got involved with politics, but he's not won by trade. That's what's great about it. Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's a lot of people say, oh, he comes across so unclassy or derogatory or whatever. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I mean, just as a disclaimer, guys, I'm not going to vote for Trump. I'm not going to vote for Kamala either. I'm a person that, as a public kind of analyst, I don't want to necessarily go down that road because I want to have somewhat of a clear vision of what's happening in the markets and be able to relay that to you without being too tribalistic. Okay, like an either a never Trumper or hardcore MAGA. I don't want to be either one of those. I want to be somewhat impartial here, and so I'm not going to vote for either of them. But anyway, I do think that Trump is a good choice, being that he's not a lifelong politician. So yes, I agree. And he's able to fight the system. You know, if you're a politician and you've been there for a long time, one, you have a lot of hands that you've greased, and a lot of people have greased your hands, and you have a lot of skeletons in the closet. So Trump, most investigated man probably in the history of the world, and they haven't really found anything on him that they can get him on. And yeah, he's from the outside. Dex Invictus, I lean towards a golden age. It's kind of exciting, man, when you think about it like that. I remember talking years back with stand by. I remember talking years back with, what was his name? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. The guy from Canada. The loud bond trader guy. He was very, very bearish. He kind of disappeared here over the last little while, but he was very, very bearish on the United States. I interviewed him for FedWatch. If you guys remember his name, put it in the chat because I'm drawing a total blank. Very loud guy, would always cuss and stuff. But anyway, he when he came on the show, he was so bearish in the United States. I was like, no, man, we're about to go through an American Renaissance here. American Renaissance. Like, think about brain drain. Think about the flight of skilled labor out of these countries. So we didn't even talk about demographics on this show yet, but if your country, like say South Korea, is collapsing because of your demographics are shrinking by 50% every generation, then the top 10% of people, top 10% of doctors, top 10% of scientists, top 10% of PhDs, whatever, they're going to leave your country. And where are they going to go? They're going to go to the place that is having the golden age. And so all of these places with the brain drain to the United States, as well as their capital and their creation of capital, their future creation of capital, is just going to bid up everything more. So every way you slice it, I mean, other countries will benefit. I think Argentina right now is really set up to perhaps get a lot of that as well. If Malay does really well and their economy starts picking up and they have very favorable laws, I think Argentina could be a better return on investment than actually the United States. But the United States is so big and it's just going to become bigger, right? It's more important to global economy and everything. Greg Foss, there you go. Thanks, VidGamer. Yeah, Greg Foss. He was saying, he's always such a doomer on the United States. And I was like, no, man, we're going to go through American Renaissance. Keith McCullough. No, isn't that the hedge eye guy? No, definitely not. Definitely not. That guy is semi-scammer. Raphael says, yes, not a single vote in the primaries for Kamala. That is the threat to democracy. So yes, to your point, confession through projection. Exactly. Everything is confession through projection with them. Everything. And that's because they can't think a different way. It's hard to explain in a few words, but Everything is confession through projection because they can only see the world in one way, and that's through the lens of power. Okay. Yes, Greg Foss, that is correct. He's back now. I think he came back after he had some bad Bitcoin investments, apparently, where he invested in some companies that completely rugged him. And so, but he is back. He is back. Hopefully he's doing okay. Okay, let me check Telegram, see if there's any comments over here. Okay, Facey McFace says, I forget when the WHO predicts peak global population, 2050 maybe, around 12 billion. Given demographic collapse is baked in for most first world countries, what do you think about immigration as a solution to the demographic problem, at least in the short to medium term, given first world countries time to balance out population decline? Just curious. Oh, and then you say 2080. Apparently, you must have looked it up, and it's at 10.5. Yes, but all of their predictions have been too high. And it's just like when you look at individual country predictions, always miss. I'm just going to go to this one here. So individual country predictions always miss. They slope down and they say, oh, we're going to level out at one on the total fertility rate, but it never happens. It just keeps falling below one. So the UN projections are based off of some leveling off of the decline, but we actually accelerate. When I looked at the rate of decline in South Korea, it's 6%. It's over 6% a year, and it's getting worse every year. So if you go from 2021 to 2022, the decline was 6.3%. Fertility rate to fertility rate. And then if you go from 2022 to 2023, the decline was 6.9%. So it just keeps going faster and faster to the downside in most of these countries. And that's why the WHO's projection or the UN's projection, whoever it is always going to miss it to the downside. I don't think we're going to hit 9 billion people. And immigration, where are we going to get them from? All the countries in the Western Hemisphere are below replacement. Every single one. We're not going to be getting them from Guatemala anymore. Like there were numbers with what percentage of people from a certain different countries in the Western Hemisphere that came during Kamala's first administration. And it was something like 6% of Guatemalans or 6% of Hondurans. 6% of the total population of that country. There's something like 3% of Haitians, 3% of all Haitians. I mean, I'd have to look those numbers up again, but it's a lot. And they're under replacement level fertility. There's not going to be enough people to supplement with immigration. Immigration is pretty much over. Now in Europe, it might be a little bit different story because the Middle East still has some net positive growth, and that would be like the neighboring region that would come into Europe. They're slightly higher, but most of the countries are at or below replacement right now as well. There's a few Middle Eastern countries I think that are not below replacement yet. And so, including Gaza and West Bank and stuff. So no, immigration is not a solution. It's not even a medium-term solution. It's a very near-term solution that the window's almost gone to use immigration as a band-aid for population decline. Now, the one area that you could see some immigration from would be Africa, West Africa to the United States, maybe East Africa to Europe, or North Africa to Europe. But they're falling very rapidly as well. Most of those countries are still pretty high, like 4 or 5, but every generation is getting cut in half. And so when you see population projections that say, oh, we're not going to be shrinking in global population for another 50 years or whatever the case is, that's because Africa is still growing, but they are declining. Their fertility rate is also declining very, very rapidly. So that's what I would say to that. All right, let me see. Frog Farmer, yes, it's Greg Foss. Oh, Point said Greg Foss too. Okay, so that's going to be it. Unless there's any more comments, I'll see. A couple more seconds. Going once, going twice. All right. Few people watching today, 56. I'll have to see if there's something wrong with the stream, but I am going out on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, and Telegram. If you're on Twitter, where most of the views happen, guys, please jump over to the YouTube and Rumble, like, comment, subscribe over there. Try to check all the messages that you guys put later on after the live stream is over. And trying to grow the YouTube to get monetized. So we are doing a decent job on that. Let me check the sub number right now. Stand by. Okay, we're at 520. I'm trying to get to 1,000. So let's like, comment, subscribe, guys. Push this out. Also, you guys can sign up for the newsletter at bitcoinandmarkets.com. That's it. All right, guys. See you on the next one. Bye.